Okay, this is the P1 paper from June 2024. It's question number 3, and this is a graphs and transformations question. In particular, we've got a cubic graph here, and what they're going to ask us to do is say what happens to this graph with these two transformations. Okay, let's have a look at the original graph then. It tells me where it hits the axes at those 3 points, and then says what happens if we do the transformation f of x plus 3. Well, I'm hoping everybody's okay with f of x plus 3. What that's going to be is a translation of 3 units, but to the left, okay? And then basically the transformation is, or the translation is -3 naught there. So what I've done is drawn out the original graph already. This is part A, obviously. Here's my original graph before I do the transformation. So as I'm going to do the translation 3 units over, as we move this graph 3 units over, then what I really need to do is to look and see what happens to this point and what happens to this one. Well, if we first of all focus on what happens to the 3, quite clearly, if I'm going to move that 3 units over, that's going to end up hitting the origin there. So my new point now is going to be the point 0, 0 there. For that one, let's get rid of the 3, and the -1, that's shifted over 3 units as well. So that's now going to go over and not be -1, it's now going to be -4, 0. So highlight those 2 points. The point of intersection that was there has now moved over and isn't an important point anymore in my new sketch. So I can get rid of the point 2 from there. That's good enough. That's answered the question. I've got the shape, which obviously the shape doesn't change particularly, and I've moved the 2 points on the axes. If I wanted to say here it's a translation -3 naught, we absolutely don't need that. That's just really more to explain to the examiner what I've done. But yeah, I've got everything they asked for, which is the new shape and the coordinates where it cuts or touches the coordinate axes. So yeah, part A done. Part B then says f of -3x. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do f of -x first and see what happens to that. And once I've done that, I'll then do f of -3x afterwards. F of -x, what f of -x is going to do is, if we go back to this original graph here, if that's f of x, f of -x will in effect be a reflection about the y-axis. So what's going to happen is that this value here is going to now become there at 1. This value here is now going to go over there at -3. And if we're reflecting about the axis, that value of 2 is not going to move. Right, that's all a bit confusing on there. So let's actually show it on the actual set of axes. So I've not started with the original one here. What I'm going to say then is to try and get the shape. The shape has been reflected round, and what we've got is it's going to touch at that point -3 naught, then come back up there. It's still going to hit at 2 there, but then it's going to come down and hit at 1 naught there. So this is -3 naught. This would be 2, and this would be 1 naught. This is f of -x, not f of -3x. This is f of -x. That's a reflection in the y-axis. So then to go from that to f of -3x, which is actually going to be my answer, what does that do? Well, if we multiply by 3 in there, what we do is a stretch, but scale factor, and let's write this down, a stretch scale factor 1/3, it's going to be a third, it's going to be squashed parallel to the x-axis. So this graph up here now is going to be squashed like that together. The -3 naught isn't going to be -3 naught anymore, it's going to be -1 naught. The 1 naught isn't going to be 1 naught anymore, it's going to be a third naught. Squashing this one makes no difference, okay? If we're stretching or squashing it parallel to the y-axis, it's already on the y-axis, so that's not going to make any difference. So again, just making sure I'm making it clear from actual answer for the examiner now. What I'm going to do here with this one is I'll get that this comes down, we'll make it a bit closer, this is going to be at -1 naught then, that comes up there. It will still come up to the 0.2, but then it's going to come back down there, and now absolutely vital obviously that I say this is -1 naught here, this is a third naught there, but that value there hasn't changed, the 2 value hasn't changed there, and that's my actual answer for f of -3x. So would need to just make that very clear to the examiner. I think that's okay, that this is, first part is just working out, and then this second part is the actual answer for that one. Just go back and check I've done everything. Yeah, they wanted the graph drawn, they wanted it putting the points of intersection, which I've got, so I've answered all of those 3. A little bit tricky, just a little bit to think about with that question. Question 3 of June 2024. Hopefully that will make sense to everybody.